Alrighty, welcome back to Musical Connections. This is Next to Connect, our interview segment where we talk to musicians or industry professionals about their careers and brand new projects. I'm Zach Snow, and on the note of brand new projects, joining me right now, he is one of the co-founders of the band Midnightwatch. Their new album, Ghost Hours, is out now by the time that this drops. And he's also played in bands like Ruggedshores, The Beautiful Rex, Port of Call, among others. And here to talk with me all about his brand new project, Midnightwatch, and their new album, Ghost Hours, is the one and the only Evan AuCoin. Welcome to Next to Connect, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me, Zach. Great to be here.
And thanks so much again for coming on. I believe this is only like our second interview that I believe we've had together.
Yeah.
Because we've had an interview, you and Jim and I, on the Celtic Wake Up.
Yep.
So this is really our first one-on-one interview.
Indeed.
And thanks again for coming on. Congratulations on your brand new album, Ghost Hours, for your new project, Midnightwatch. So off the hop here, how are things for you right now?
Very good, very busy. We've got a full summer of gigs lined up with Rugged Shores, a few festivals, a bunch of bar shows and that kind of thing. Midnightwatch with the record and the promotion that's gone into all that. There's been a fair bit going on. And we're gearing up for a busy summer as well, hoping to get a few shows and some other special projects that we have planned kind of lined up. So overall, things are busy, but busy is good.
Oh, absolutely. And when it considers being busy, this whole podcast, it's really a one-man show, so there's no more busy than me and also you, especially because the bands that you're in, I mean, Midnightwatch is your brand new project, but you pretty much play like every week downtown with Rugged Shores.
We are pretty busy with it, I must say. Yeah, we're weekly at O'Reilly's every Thursday as a trio, and then we've got a bevy of gigs pretty much every other weekend lined up, and it gets pretty intense.
Yeah, so that's you, Rowan, and Jeff Kinsman?
Myself, Jeff Kinsman, Rowan, and so the trio is either myself, Jeff, and Rowan, or Jim, Jeff, and Rowan, depending on who's available and what's going on there. We try to share the load there a fair bit, and then we've got a lot of full band stuff for the whole summer. Awesome.
Now, I want to go back to what got you started into music in the first place, because just from, being around you, you have been a very busy guy when it comes to music. So what drove you to music in the first place to really, chase this dream?
I think as a kid, just growing up, I was surrounded by it. My mom and dad were both very passionate about music, both listening. Mom's a great singer. Dad is a self-taught guitar player and an instrumentalist. And
wow.
I come from, on dad's side, a very musical family in terms of instrumentalists and fiddle players and banjo and guitars and accordions. And on mom's side, I come from a lot of deep music appreciators and vocalists and that sort of thing. And my brother and I have both been, he does musical theater. We've both been super involved in music all growing up. We were in choirs and bands in school, and it just kind of was always part of the regular routine. And so when I moved to town and started just kind of spending time on my own, I just played guitar a lot, and then that led to open mics, and open mics led to gigs downtown, and that's led to this that I have before me now.
So you moved here to town. What part of Newfoundland did you grow up in?
I grew up in Bay De Verde, so only about 2 hours outside the city.
Oh, wow. So same place as Ray Walsh.
Yeah, same place. Yeah. I know that whole family all very well.
Oh, that's awesome. So Greg and Michelle and the rest of the family?
Yes, indeed.
I want to stick to that for a second.
Sure.
Have you ever played with Ray Walsh? And if so, what was it like playing with him?
I didn't have the pleasure, unfortunately, because it wasn't until I was a bit older that I actually started playing out and around and that kind of thing. But I just to see them play growing up and to be part of that community. Bay De Verde is an extremely musical community. D'Arcy Broderick comes from there as well. There's a lot of musicians from the area and a lot of music in the area, and just to grow up around all that and to have that sort of musical heritage in the town we came from was huge.
Oh, yeah, and D'Arcy Broderick as well. He owns Broderick's Pub. He's owned Shamrock City in the past. Yep. And I'd imagine you've had many chats with D'Arcy when it comes to, the music scene and stuff. So is there anything that D'Arcy Broderick has taught you about the music sector that you've taken away?
Just to keep working at it and keep plugging away at it. It's all about work and all about, showing up and making sure that you're putting in your best effort every time.
Oh, I'd say, for sure. Now, just doing some research for this interview, I was going over some of your influences, and it says here that your influences range from the likes of Jason Isbell to Bob Dylan to Blue Rodeo. Who are some of the big influences for you, aside from the ones I just mentioned, that really, shaped who you are musically?
There's a couple of big ones for me. Tom Petty is a huge one. And the older I get, the more that I gravitate away from, because growing up, I always said that my big four were Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, and Warren Zevon.
Oh,
Warren
wow.
Zevon, huge influence
Warren
for me as
Zevon,
well.
so Werewolves of London.
Yeah, and a lot of other songs that are
Poor,
way
poor,
better
pitiful
than
me.
way better than Werewolves of London. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
But but the older I get, the more I gravitate away from Dylan, and the more I go towards Tom Petty, just because of the accessibility of the songs and the style of songwriting, and the more that I get into writing songs, the more I was like, that's what I want to write, those kinds of songs, sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So Petty's a big one, Springsteen's a big one, Zevon's a big one. I listen to a lot of varied stuff. I grew up with my grandfather, so my mother's father, they grew up. We grew up across the street from where Mom grew up, essentially,
Okay.
in Bay De Verde. So I spent a lot of time over there, and he was super into the Dubliners and the Clancys and outlaw country. So he listened to a lot of Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and that sort of thing. When I was 18, actually, I went to see Chris Christopherson with my grandparents.
No way.
At Mile 1, yeah, and it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen, and it was like I was hooked on his music from there, and so he's a huge one for me as well. And then my dad was super into a lot of classic rock like AC/DC and that kind of stuff. But he was also Dad was always really into good songwriters. He loved Jim Croce and Neil Young, and he loved Elvis Costello and artists like that. And so I grew up listening to a lot of that, and all that kind of shaped musically the confusing things going on in my head.
Man, your genre is just from your influences there. I mean, you said like the Dubliners and the Clancys,
Yeah.
to AC/DC, to Jim Croce, to
Yeah.
Chris Christopherson, to Johnny Cash, to Bob Dylan. I mean, how did So I just want to change subjects here. You ended up getting an opportunity with Corona Brophy and the Celtic Fiddlers,
Yeah.
and just a list of names that have come from that group: Tom Power, Aaron Collis, Mark Manning has come from it, Rosemary Lawton's come from it, Jamie Moran's come from it. So how did that opportunity with the Celtic Fiddlers come up?
It's funny, actually, because my girlfriend at the time was in the group, had been in the group for a long time, and we played in a couple other groups together. And I had been around the shows. I'd been to a lot of the shows that the Fiddlers had played, and had gotten to know Corona pretty well. And it's funny, actually, there was Corona was constantly trying to get me in the group, and I was like, I've got a lot of things on the go, And then finally she was like, well, just come up for one show. I was like, okay, I'll do one show. I'll play mandolin and I'll play guitar. And she said, well, sing a couple songs. I was like, okay, well, I'll sing a couple songs. And we did a couple songs. And then midway through the show, she announced that I was the newest member of the group. And it just kind of stuck from there. I was with the group for, I think, three years. I think it was with them. We traveled to Ireland together. I was on one of the records called Ready for the Storm. I helped co-produced that, and I did a fair bit of the recording on it. And it was, so I took a lot from that group. I must say, it was an amazing experience to be part of, and afforded me a lot of really great opportunities in music, and helped me make a lot of the connections that I still have to this day.
For sure. Now, how important are programs like the Celtic Fiddlers and the Young Folk of the Halls? How helpful are they to our development for the music sector, not just now, but going into the future?
I think they're absolutely paramount. I think they're huge. I think the younger you can get students involved in music, and I think the sooner you can kind of get them comfortable with not just performing, but with composing and with creating and with playing in group settings and that kind of stuff. Because so much of the lesson-based stuff that you get as a kid is all individual, and school groups are school groups, but you end up with some people that are engaged and some people that are disengaged and that sort of thing. So if you can have a situation that puts a younger musician into a band setting early on, and you get to learn how to play off of other people and how to play with other people and how to collaborate and that sort of thing, it's massive to your development as a musician. I wish I'd had something like that when I was even younger, because I think it would have put me even further ahead at a earlier age, we'll say.
For sure. And if you even ask some of the older musicians out there today, I think they would have wished they would have had something like that when they were coming up as musicians.
Oh, completely. The things that I learned from that group, just how to talk to an audience, and how to how to hold an audience, and how to play with a drummer and how to play with a bass player and things like that. All those things are things that if you're just playing individually, you develop your own sort of tempo individually. And it's not until that you start playing with other people that you realize that sometimes that tempo is not necessarily where it needs to be, and the adaptability that creates in you as a musician, it's incalculable how important it is.
Oh, for sure. Now, one of your big opportunities following, or I believe you were in Celtic Fiddlers around the time that Ready for the Storm came out, which was 2018, 2019.
Yeah, so I helped co-produce that record. We recorded that with Billy Sutton and Jason Whalen, and I was there for a fair bit of the production, myself and Corona, and I do have lead vocals on one of the songs on the record as well.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So one of the opportunities I believe you had before this whole Celtic Fiddlers theme came up was the Beautiful Rex. So it's an all-country group that you've had back in 2014, 2015. I believe you released one album and a couple of singles. So how did that opportunity with the Beautiful Rex come together?
I was out downtown one night, and I was at a bar that doesn't exist anymore called Scanlan's, which then became the Black Sheep and has been several things since then. I believe it's called Spirit now. But I was there watching a band locally that I absolutely love, Dust Radio, which is fronted by Dave Guy, who's an amazing guitar builder and repair guy and pedal builder and just all-around amazing musician and person. And I was listening to Dust Radio, and they're this sort of alt-country trio type thing. And I had been chatting with, funny actually, this is eerily similar to how Midnight Watch started, and you'll hear a very similar story shortly.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
But I texted a buddy of mine, Nick, who played bass, and I was like, do you want to start a band? And he was like, he texted me back immediately. He's like, yes. Do you? And then he said, do you need a drummer? I know a guy. And literally, that was Friday night. Tuesday, I showed up at Nick's house and I met the guy. And that was, I want to say that was early November, and December 9th of 2015, or 2014, 2015, we played our first show at Distortion as a trio. And then eventually that grew into a 5-piece band. And we used to play the Rose and Thistle a lot with the Beautiful Rex, and having a 5-piece band on the stage at the Rose and Thistle is not a good idea. Because the space is about the stage is about the size of half this table.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that all just kind of came together from there, and we played as a trio for a handful of shows, and we were like, okay, we need something else. We need to add, because I'm a good rhythm guitar player. I'm not a great lead guitar player by any stretch of the imagination. It's not something I ever kind of set out to be. Mm-hmm. So we added pianos, and then we added eventually lead guitar, and that was a really fun time. We had a lot of great shows with that band. We played a couple of really cool house concerts and a few things across the island. And the record that we put together, we recorded that with my dear friend Georgie Newman, who recorded my first solo EP as well, and a couple of songs that myself and Rowan did later on. And that was just an amazing experience all around, and a really fun band to be a part of. And that was really, again, one of the opportunities that helped me develop as a frontman and as a musician and as a member of a band, and it was just a really great time.
Oh, I'd say. Now, of course, in the middle of that, you ended up joining the Celtic Fiddlers, and then you also ended up joining Rugged Shores with Jim Feenan, Rowan Sherlock, and a bunch of other great musicians as part of that group. Jeff Kinsman, and I'm forgetting the drummer's name. Brian Efford. So you ended up releasing, I think the album was called Faraway Light?
No. There's a song on the album called Faraway Light. The album's called Wild River.
Oh, Wild River. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Geez, like when I've done like 74 episodes of these, it's hard to forget
100%,
what albums
man.
come out. Like, geez, I forget what songs I cover for newfound releases half the time.
Zach, I wrote the songs and I forget them sometimes. So don't feel bad.
Well, thanks. Glad I'm not alone, eh?
Yeah, no, don't worry about it.
Now, back to what I was saying before. You ended up being a part of Rugged Shores, and you still are a part of Rugged Shores. Yep. So, what drove you in particular to playing trad music?
There was a lot of factors that played into that. The Celtic Fiddlers was a huge part of it. I was playing in a male-female vocal duo called Port of Call and the Beautiful Rex at the same time, and as well as the Celtic Fiddlers. And myself and the other person in Port of Call were part of all three of those groups at the same time.
Wow.
And then that relationship ended, and I was sort of... As that relationship was ending, I was working with a tourism company, and in working with the tour company, I started doing entertainment. They were like, "Well, you're in the Celtic Fiddlers. Do you do Irish music?" And I was like, "I've known Irish music my whole life. I grew up around it and that kind of stuff. It was just not something that I was performing actively." But I was like, "Yeah, I can put together a few sets." And kind of, I used to hop in when they needed dinner entertainment and that kind of stuff. And some of the venues that they did entertainment at, I got to know some of the bar managers and kind of made connections from there. And it was a time in my life where I was working part-time and money was tight, and the opportunity to play gigs for a guaranteed pay was really attractive, because a lot of the gigs I've been playing up to that point were for whatever was made on the door on a Tuesday night, and that split amongst 4 people might get you a sub on the way home, or it might not get you a sub on the way home. it might just be 2 free beer. That's,
Hey, bye.
So it was, all of that was really attractive. And then the more that I got into it, the more I really enjoyed the entertainment side of it. And the more that I really enjoyed kind of putting myself out there in some of the venues I was playing, the audience I was playing to. And I met, it's funny actually, Kevin Hurnham was the bass player in Rugged Shores at the time. And I know Kevin from out home. Kevin's brother was actually my math teacher in grade 12.
Wow.
Yeah, so I get a message from Kevin one night, and this was after we had played a show at George Street United with the Celtic Fiddlers, and Chris Deacon had been there and taken a few photos, and I think there was a photo of me playing mandolin that popped up. I get a message from Kevin, is like, you play mandolin? I was like, yeah, I play mandolin, bouzouki, and guitar, and a few odds and ends. He goes, oh, cool, right on. He says, when are you playing next? I was like, I was playing at Kelly's Pub that Friday. He goes, cool, my buddy Jimmy and I are going to pop out. I was like, okay, cool. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, Kevin's in town, he's hanging out kind of thing. And on the break, I went over and I was talking to Kevin and Jim. They were like, so we got this band. And we're looking for another guy, another person to play, a couple different instruments, do some singing and that kind of stuff. Would you be interested? And I was like, sure. So I showed up to a rehearsal in the basement in Torbay, and it kind of went from there. So we and again, that was a quick turnaround time. It was I think November again, and then December I played my first gig with Rugged Shores, and it's been, I think, 6 years now.
That's insane.
Yeah,
the rest of the day is history. Hey.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've been playing with Rugged Shores almost as long as I've been at my current job, and I've been there for 7 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the second longest job I've ever had is playing at Rugged Shores.
Oh my God, that's insane.
But that's been an absolutely amazing experience. I love playing with those guys, and we've had some really great shows and some really great gigs, and really happy with how that record turned out, and really nice to play with a group of fellas that, it's easy enough in the trad scene to kind of just play the covers and to play the songs that everyone plays. And we've set out a lot and to try to mix it up and try to throw in as much as we can that's a little bit different. So we do a lot of off the beaten track rock stuff and older songs and country stuff and original music and that kind of thing as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's been really refreshing to be part of a group like that where it's so varied and we have so many different tools in our toolbox that it's a really adaptable group, and that's fun to be part of.
Oh, for sure. The album called I think it was called The Faraway Light, but there is a track on that album called Faraway Light.
There is a track
ended up
from my wife on that one. Yeah.
Becoming the album Wild River.
Yeah.
You have your original track Wild River on there. One More Time. I think Jim Feenan wrote that.
One More Time.
And then Old St. John's Sinking. I think he wrote that too.
That was a guy Jeff Green who wrote that, but he gave us permission to use it. He's another local Newfoundland songwriter.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, so a lot of the songs that were on there were either mine or Jim's originals. Like Old Woman is a Jim original, Sold the Shops is a Jim original, and there's a couple of older songs. Sarah Jane is an older folk song and that kind of thing. But we tried to keep it to songs that either are kind of off the beaten track or songs that we wrote ourselves.
Yeah, and songs that no one's really ever covered before.
Yeah, things like that.
For sure. Now, yourself and Rowan ended up developing a good relationship in the band too, and you and Rowan have been playing the band together for a number of years.
Yep.
And you did a little side thing called Faraway Light, and it ended up becoming Evan AuCoin and Rowan Sherlock. That would end up becoming, what would turn out into your brand new band, Midnight Watch.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about how Midnight Watch really got together.
Sure. Rowan and I met on tour. Rowan's band Newfoundland came over and toured Newfoundland, and then they just kind of left Rowan behind. He's been here ever since, and we became fast friends. My Portugal actually opened for them on that tour, and we became fast friends from there, and that sort of developed into this musical partnership that spanned now going on 7 years.
So just as long as you're
pretty much as long as my longest job. So my longest relationship is Rowan, technically.
Listen, don't tell your partner that.
No, our wives are not stoked about it, but
you got it on record here now.
So no, that's been said out loud more than once.
Anyways, carry on.
No, 100%. So yeah, Rowan and I had been playing under the moniker Faraway Light for a little while, and ironic that we were playing under that for original music, and then we ended up with a song on the Rugged Shores album, Faraway Light, and that's kind of why we stopped using the name, because it all got really confusing. But Rowan and I had been playing together for a while and been looking at recording some original stuff, and I've been friends for years with a guy named Kieran Dooley. Kieran's a fantastic guitar player. He's a fantastic musician, songwriter, all-around multi-instrumentalist, just wonderful, and a recording engineer as well. It's funny actually, because Rowan and I, the couple singles, we did 2 singles with Faraway Light with our friend Georgie Newman, and then we did another couple of songs that are up on Bandcamp with our buddy Kieran, who was Kieran from Midnight Watch. So we done some recordings with him, and it was Christmas time, and I was watching something on YouTube at like 12 o'clock in the morning, and I I got to start a country band. I was like, I got to start an alt country band or a rock band kind of thing. I got to get back into I got to get back into the other side of things because I spent so much of my early days gigging doing the original music and folk rock and alt rock and that kind of stuff. And I really I was hungering for it again. And messaged Kieran. I was like, hey, do you want to start that alt country band we've been talking about for like a decade? And Kieran immediately messaged me back and was like, yeah, sure. And then Rowan came on board, and Kieran and our buddy Liam Peacock, who Kieran played guitar in his band Dora, and he's our bass player and piano player and singer and our in-house graphic designer and a lot of other things as well.
When it comes to Liam's design work, just look at what he's done for Stingray.
Oh, 100%. The stuff he's done for Stingray, the stuff he's done for Paul Brace, all the single artwork for Paul's music he's been putting out.
Oh,
Liam's
wow.
done all that
Never knew
too.
that.
Yeah. He's done all of our artwork for the album. He's done all of our designs for posters. We've got some merch that's gonna be coming out soon. He's designed all that. He's just amazing at it. And then our buddy Lucas, who Lucas and Kieran play in a band called not in a band called Centerfold together, and he came on as our drummer, and it all just kind of came together. Unfortunately, Rowan had to leave because he's just got a lot on the go between the Descendants and Rugged Shores and raising a family and all that kind of stuff. But he still he recorded on I think 6 tracks on the album, and is going to be playing the CD release with us as well. But it all just kind of came together from there. We just started jamming in Kieran's basement, and jamming turned into recording, and then we played a few gigs, and it all clicked really well.
Yeah, you guys got a really nice sound too. I featured some of your songs on Newfound releases in the past. So, how did this name how'd you come up with the name Midnight Watch?
It's funny, actually. That comes from Midnight Watch itself is a nautical term. On a ship, there's a set number of watches, and the Midnight Watch occurs at midnight. And so it's just the watch on the ship that occurs from midnight to I think 12:30 or something along those lines.
Okay.
But it's a nautical term that was used or almost used back in the Port of Call days. So Port of Call, briefly, we were a duo, but we briefly played with a backing band, and we were kind of trying to come up with ideas for the name of the backing band. So at one point, we were going to be Port of Call and the Midnight Watch. And it just never came to fruition. It made more sense as a duo, so we just kind of kept it that way. But I always liked that name, and I kind of kept it in my back pocket. And when we first started jamming, I was like, how do you guys feel about this? And everyone liked it, and here we are.
Wonderful. Now, your debut record, which is called Ghost Hours, by the time that this drops, is already out now. You had a successful album release show at the, I believe it's the Well Room?
The Well Room, yeah. Formerly the Rocket Room.
Formerly the Rocket Bakery Room. And you had a Kelsey Arsenault open up for you. Kelsey Arsenault is going to be a very, very busy lady, especially with the VOWR 100th anniversary concert, which I'm a volunteer of.
Amazing.
And very happy to represent them as well. And she's also has a great album called Gallery Walls, which is fantastic. So what could people expect on this brand new album, Ghost Hours?
It's for me personally, it's one of the most ambitious recording projects I've ever been part of. I think we set out to make a record that we were all were happy to hang our hats on. I think we successfully managed that. We've got strings, there's horn tracks, there's pianos, there's noise tracks, there's all the kinds of things that you'd expect from an early 2000s all country record, and some things that I hope you would expect from a 2024, alt rock and folk record. And there's a lot of fun stuff. There's horn sections, like I said. There's it's an album that, in terms of the music itself, I wrote a lot of these songs a long time ago. They were songs that were written for various projects, or songs that were never written for a project, were just written for the sake of writing them, and some songs that I never thought would see the light of day. And I gotta say, I'm just, the 10 songs on the record we're super proud of how it all came together, and we did as much of it ourselves as we possibly could. We recorded everything in Kieran's basement. Kieran engineered everything. We had the wonderful Sarah at Moon Apple Music, who did all of our mastering, and Atlantic Music Store, who doing all of our manufacturing and that kind of stuff. But outside of that, a fair bit of it was just done ourselves. And we're super happy to have managed to put it together, and can't wait for everyone to hear the product.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, of course, this brand new album, Ghost Hours, you said before that there's like horn sections and string sections. So what kind of bands or artists are you taking inspiration from to, draw into this, great new project that you got with Midnight Watch? So what are some of the influences for Midnight Watch?
There's a couple of big ones. I think for us, two of the biggest bands that whenever we try to describe our sound, two of the bands that we gravitate towards immediately are Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit and Wilco. And then when people look at you and go, who? We then look at them and say, kind of like Blue Rodeo, but weirder. And that's kind of what we're going for. But the two biggest ones are Isbell and Wilco, and Kieran and myself are both into a lot of old school country and like older like outlaw country and that kind of stuff as well. And there was always different elements on those records. They always had bands that were bigger and they were pushing it to be like you'd have a whole horn section or you'd have a choir backing you or that kind of stuff. And we love all those kind of elements that go into the recording that make a production sound so much bigger than just 4 people with instruments. So we took a lot of the cues from those kinds of bands that have those sorts of bigger sections that are brought out, we'll say, for the special recordings or for the bigger gigs and that kind of stuff, and we threw them into the record. So the horns, the strings, and for what you can just call noise. So there's a lot of things that are happening in under the songs that are creating sort of atmosphere that are just, it's literally just that. It's just white noise, or it's static, or it's a guitar that's played with a delay pedal cranked all the way up so it doesn't sound like a guitar anymore. And none of that is front and center of the mix, but it's all just kind of there in underneath. And those are all production tricks that we've been listening to our whole lives from the bands like Wilco that we love, that we were like, let's do all this in the record. Let's try to throw as much of this into. And we kind of harken back to some of the older, like say alt-rock recordings in the 90s or other recordings that we've listened to in the past, where a couple songs on the record, you always leave things rolling at the end to kind of at the end of a recording session. And there's bits of us talking at the end of some of the songs. There's like, oh, that was good, or oh my god, or let's do this, or and there's little elements like that. So we tried to take it and make it as organic as possible as well, because it's so easy for everything to be overproduced and everything is perfectly pitch corrected and everything is A, B, C, D cut and dry, and we didn't want to do that because none of our influences do that. So we wanted to make sure that we were kind of staying true to who we are as musicians.
Pretty much, and who we are as human beings.
100%, yeah.
And funny thing about Wilco, the only thing I know from Wilco, they had a song in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie right at the very end of the credits. Just a Kid is the name of the song that I know from Wilco. Yeah. And that's the only song from Wilco that I'll know, and I'll stick by that.
There you go. I highly recommend checking them out. They got some great stuff. It's all very weird, but it's all very fun.
Oh, yeah. And I'd imagine some of the bands that are, like some of the popular bands that are out today probably take some inspirations from Wilco as well.
Oh, 100%. They've been around for a long time.
So you just had a successful album release show at the Well Room on Water Street, and you have a brand new album out with Midnight Watch. What else is next for you, Evan, when it comes to, say, that band and Rugged Shores?
Rugged Shores have a very busy summer ahead of us. We're going to be doing a lot of performing. At the end of the summer, we're hoping to maybe buckle down and do a few recordings as well, just to kind of get some more songs out there, to generate some more content, and to, myself and Jim both write a fair bit, and there's stuff that I write that doesn't necessarily make sense for Midnight Watch. There's stuff that I write that doesn't necessarily make sense for Rugged Shores. So it's nice to have those two outlets to be able to channel some of the originals into, and we'll probably be looking at putting a few more of those to recordings for myself and for Jim moving forward. On top of that too, then for Midnight Watch, we're going to be doing as much as we can to try to promote the record, pushing it as hard as we can. We've got a couple of ideas for shows lined up in the next little while. We've also got a couple of recording ideas. We've already got the second album almost fully planned.
Oh, wow.
Because we've all been writing, like everyone in the band writes, we've all been writing for years. So we've all either had full songs or snippets of ideas that as we've been kind of writing and recording this record, as we've been doing that, there's things that have popped into people's heads like, oh, that's cool. We'll write that down and we'll save that for later. And now we have in our set list, we have the 10 songs from the record plus another 8 or 9 original songs that are ready to go as well between myself and Liam and Kieran and Lucas. And yeah, so we'll be honing and practicing those as well. And then once we're through the promotion cycle for this record, we'll start recording the next one.
That's awesome. Once again, we're going to get to the brand new song, Thank You Kindly, which was actually one of the songs I ended up missing for newfound releases. But when it comes to the 2024 so far for music here in the province, it's been a really good year.
That's crazy. The amount of music that's been released in just a few months is insane. Like I've been listening to all the newfound releases and some of the other shows that highlight local music, and man, oh man, it's just crazy. The amount of music that's being put out and the quality of it too. There's a lot of really great music being put out.
I think there's like a perception of like if it's recorded in your basement, it sounds bad. But if you have the software and you know what you're doing with it, then you can make a great quality recording. I mean, you look at Billie Eilish.
Yep.
Her and Phineas made a recording basically in their basement. They have the software to do it, and they have the know-how and the skills to do it. and she won like 6 or 7 Grammys. So
100%. It's
I need
just-
that perception of recording in your mom's basement or recording in like in your bedroom.
Yeah.
I think that's gone out the window.
Oh, completely. The technology is so far advanced now that you don't, it's amazing to be able to have access to a huge professional studio and all these people and all this time. That's fantastic, but that gets very expensive.
Oh, for sure.
And things are tough to try to justify some of those expenses at times when the technology's come to the point where you can do a lot of that in your basement.
Exactly.
There are things that there's limits you can put on it and that sort of thing, but at the same time, there's a lot that you can do well beyond what you could have done even 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And so that stigma it's nice to see that stigma sort of kind of ending because, like I said, we've had some absolutely amazing music that's been put out in Newfoundland in the last few months, the last few years.
Oh,
and
100%.
very little of it has been made in what you would consider to be a full-on professional grade recording studio, but
Yeah.
it's professional grade and professional sounding recordings.
Yeah, absolutely. And with apps like Pro Tools, especially, and Final Cut and all that stuff. I don't know if Final Cut does music, but like with these programs that are coming out right now, like you pretty much have the resources to make a full song right there in your basement,
Totally.
without having the need of a full band.
Yeah. Well, this whole record we recorded in Kieran's basement. Kieran has a studio set up in his basement, and that's he's got all the equipment there that we'd need for what we needed to do, and anything else that we if we needed to track drums in another room or something like that, we just found somewhere else to track them. So it's very. I won't say it's easy because none of it's easy.
Oh, nothing's
but
ever easy.
But it's very accessible to try to do DIY at this point.
Oh, it's never been more accessible.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So if you have the know-how and you have the the gumption and the tenacity to learn it, there's a lot you can do.
Yeah, all you just got to do is do it.
Yep.
Just do it.
Yeah. Which sounds very easy, but is actually super complicated. But at the same time, if you've got the drive and the passion to do it, the complicated becomes uncomplicated. You find ways.
Oh, absolutely. Now, for anyone who wants to find out more about Midnight Watch, Rugged Shores, any recordings we may have in the future, any tour dates we may have in the future, if they want to know everything about Evan AuCoin, where can they go?
The easiest places to go are our social media. Our Facebook page is Midnight Watch, Rugged Shores, and I have my own Evan AuCoin singer-songwriter, and I share both bands and my own stuff there as well. We're on Instagram as well, Rugged Shores 1 and Midnight Watch 709. Those are your best places to keep up with it all. We've got our Bandcamp pages and that kind of stuff as well, but all the releases, all the gigs, and all that kind of stuff are all channeled right through the social media.
Well, Evan, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Musical Connections podcast. I want to get you on for a long time. I've been saying this week in and week after week about it's been a while that I've been trying to get you on, but it's great because just from going back from our first interview on Celtic Wake Up to now, you've grown so much as a singer-songwriter and as a performer and as a human being. I can't wait to see what you got coming up next, not just with Midnight Watch, but with Rugged Shores as well. And it's only onward and upward from here, my man. So Evan AuCoin, thank you so much for joining me on Next to Connect here this week. You have a wonderful day, and congratulations once again on the release of your debut album with Midnight Watch, Ghost Hours. And thanks again for coming on.
Thanks so much, Zach. It's been great to be here.